feel it's when he gives his presentation, you might ask if there's if you feel it's
Get everything ready, huh?
you'd like to
There's only one asking about this.
What?
Want to sell it strategically in case they can. Well, I don't know anything on that.
Uh-oh.
This is what we're at. So.
You're the first person everybody sees,
Looks
huh?
like that.
One more.
Morning.
One more.
the State of Utah Division of Emergency Management. So the Division of Emergency Management falls under the Department of Public Safety. So highway patrol, driver's license, highway safety office, and so we're part of that Division of Emergency Management. So our office complex is at the state capitol, and so anytime that I can get out of the city traffic and then come here, it's a good day. So I'm glad to be here with you, and we're going to talk about ICS, Instant Command System, and what it is, and what you need to know about it, and what your role is in it, and why you should even care. And so I gained my knowledge, some of it the hard way, from life's lessons, and some of it from attending trainings and going to meetings. So I'm retired from law enforcement. I worked in law enforcement for 28 years. Where I retired from was the Juan County Sheriff. So I was an elected official there for 3 terms, and that's one of the things that I enjoy now is going out and helping other counties, other cities learn about ICS. And hopefully they can learn some of the lessons the easy way in a classroom setting rather than in life's lessons. So we'll start out, this course today is for, it says senior officials and elected officials. So, for mayors, city councils, school board presidencies, those kind of things, this all fits. In an emergency, you'll all be involved with it. County commissions, county sheriffs, you'll all have the role, the leadership role in dealing with that disaster. So with that, we'll introduce the course. The objectives of this is to explain where this comes from and where we're in a larger setting and limited time. We'll skip introductions of the audience. Hopefully you folks know each other, understand we have elected officials from Monticello and Blanding and the county, right? So it's good to be here with you today again. All right, we're going to talk about some acronyms. Emergency management is filled with acronyms, almost as bad as the military. We're going to talk about what ICS is, an EOC, IC, all these acronyms. So if I use an acronym today that you're not familiar with, make sure you call me on that, stop me, and I'll explain what I'm talking about. This is what the different units talk about. We're going to go through these, some of these to fit this into an hour. This presentation can take up to a couple hours. We're going to make it fit in an hour or less. And so some of this we'll go through fairly quickly. We'll spend the time in the areas that I think are going to be important for you. So rather than read slides to you, I'm going to move along fairly quickly through these. If you have a question at any time, stop me and ask. I like to have a pretty informal presentation. So let me switch this over. It's going to take just a little bit of switching units here. Hesitated a minute to come up. That was a little nerve-wracking there for a split second. This presentation of the Instant Command System just went through a review at the federal level. And so this has only been out a few months. And so it's real similar to past courses. But this will be the first time in the state of Utah that this GE 402 for elected officials has been presented since the update. So it's hopefully goes smooth, but if you see a glitch or two, that is the reason, is because they're just barely getting these presentations done and working out the bugs. So, okay, the National Incident Management System is where all of this doctrine will come from. And NIMS, how many of you have ever heard the acronym NIMS, National Incident Management System? What have you heard about it that you need to be compliant? Or what does it mean to you? Commissioner?
We need to be trained and follow the protocols.
Train and follow the protocol of NIMS. And why do we have to do that? Not to put you on the spot. But why is it important that we do that as a county?
Well, protect the integrity of the county and the citizens.
Okay? It says to protect the integrity of the county and the citizens. And that is correct. So when this was created was on this NIMS system was after an event called Hurricane Katrina. If you remember on the national media, there was the response from FEMA and first responders that Katrina was very criticized, very negative publicity on TV, if you remember that. There was a lot of things that volunteers and a lot of things that first responders did that went very well during Hurricane Katrina. But there were events that their infrastructure, their whole city, all the government, the police, the fire, medical, hospitals was all devastated and wiped out, to where it was a catastrophic challenge like our country has never faced before. And when there was a response effort there, after that was done, Congress and Senate and the President looked at that and says, we'll never have that happen again. We're going to fix that. What can we do to respond better in the future to a major event like that? And that was the creation of NIMS. That's when they started the National Incident Management System. And so they went out looking for systems of what's the best way our nation can be prepared to fix that. In the early 70s, there were some wildland fires down in California. And there was a lot of property loss, a lot of life loss. And after that, they looked at what an after-action view of what was the problem there in California. Why there wasn't enough responders, not enough equipment, not enough training. What was it? And they found that one of the biggest problems was lack of management. And so they started looking at some different systems between Hurricane Katrina and the fires. The system they found that they felt would really work comes from the Coast Guard. And there was a maritime component to that, a military component, that's some real great structuring to help our country be prepared and respond to incidents. And so that is the basis of where NIMS gets its start and its organization from. And so these are the two documents that give us the founding. That stands for Homeland Security Presidential Directive 5, and that is what took place after Hurricane Katrina. And then Presidential Policy Directive number 8, and that is a national preparedness. That one comes from from Superstorm Sandy along the East Coast. And so, unfortunately, a lot of times our country, we're better at responding after an event than being prepared for it. And so that is what that bottom one there, Presidential Policy Directive 8, was. Hey, we shouldn't always have to respond respond after an incident. Let's be better prepared before an incident. And so that is when that national preparedness component of this comes into play. So those are the two federal documents that says that how are we going to get everybody to comply on this? Like Commissioner said, it's for the nation came out and says these will be the federal guidance, and for our counties and our cities, how can we get them to comply, to agree to want to do this, to be better prepared as a nation? And so they control that by dangling the carrot in front of us through grant dollars. If anybody accepts any federal grant dollars, then you have to comply. Part of that acceptance of those federal grant dollars is that you will comply in being NIMS compliant, that you'll agree to use ICS, Instant Command Structure, and NIMS. And so I don't know of any agency that doesn't have some tie to federal grant dollars. Everybody does. And so, we've all agreed that we will do that. So this is the partnership that we will do. And if you look down here at the bottom, it starts with the individual household. And a lot of times, you hear that you should be prepared, that you should have a kid, a plan, those kind of things. But really, to make our whole nation strong, that is where it starts. It starts the individual in the household. Because in a major disaster, it may take quite some time for that response unit to come and find you. When you look at these hurricanes and floods in the South or tornadoes in the Midwest, it's so devastating that they're not going to be there tomorrow to help you. So you need to start with your own family, your own household, yourself, to be prepared. And then a lot of times we think it's all about government, but it's the private sector and non-governmental organizations. Who has all the equipment in the nation? People, it's not FEMA. FEMA does not have warehouses full of equipment waiting to help you. They use state and county resources, but really who across our country has all the equipment? It's a private organization. They have a lot more backhoes, trucks, loaders, dozers, all those kind of things. Just all kinds of resources more than the government has. And in a major event, that is who you're going to have to rely on, is that private sector. So if they're part of our plan, part of our county plan, is it important to involve them in the planning process and let them know that, hey, you're important to us, you are part of our plan. And so that they realize that they may be called upon to let you use their school building in an event, or a church in an event, or all of those other resources that they may be able to bring to the table to help our citizens in a major event. So this is the way it is meant to be in an event. We start on this line to draw of resources, then it goes to the local government. Once you're overwhelmed and you've used your resources and you've identified that, hey, this is bigger than what we can handle, then it goes to the next level. Local goes to the state. The state sends help, sends resources, and the way that connection is made is through your state liaison. And you're lucky enough to have her in the room with us today, Angela Crawford is here with us. And so Angela is San Juan County's connection. So that connection flows very easily from your county emergency manager, Tammy Blagos, who's here with us, is the governing body, the elected officials, can turn to Tammy and say, Tammy, we need some help. And it's that easy connection from Tammy to the state liaison who lives in these counties and travels and is very familiar with your county. Hey, we need this resource. And so then it goes from the local to the state, and then those resources are on their way. If it's overwhelming to the state and bigger than that, then we reach out to the federal level. And so we belong to part of Region 8, which is out of Denver, FEMA Region 8. And so the Western United States is the first place that we would start drawing resources, and bigger than that it would go nationally. So that is the template of how help responds to San Juan County. And this is what, who, how, and why we do this, but the bottom line is, on how, this is kind of the new terminology to prevent for, or to prepare for, prevent, respond to, recover from, and mitigate the effects. It doesn't matter the size or type. That is to reduce the loss of life in our environment is why we, and that's why it's important. And those are the things that NIMS addresses. Okay, this is just a brief template of what NIMS is and what it isn't. It's not a response plan. It's not a resource ordering system. It's not a communications plan. It's a set of guidance for your incident command team in an event, in your government in an event to help deal with that. And so, it's that top bullet, a comprehensive nationwide systematic approach to incident management. That's what NIMS is. And it's in the NIMS component in that big federal document, the part that we're going to talk about today is in an event, nothing gets accomplished without resources. And so resources gets its own section because you can have all the great plans and all the great intentions, but if you don't have the actual boots on the ground, the resources to go fight that incident and deal with that incident, nothing gets done. But today we're going to talk about the command and coordination component of that. And that's where your government role, your leadership role that you folks hold fits into here. And so it's broken down into these 4 sections. We're going to talk real briefly about what an EOC is, Emergency Operations Center, a MAC, Multi-Agency Coordination Group, GIST and a JIC. That's a Joint Information System and a Joint Information Center. But we're going to spend most of our time on this Incident Command System component of it. Command, the act of directing, ordering, and controlling by virtue of explicit statutory, regulatory, or delegated authority. So if I have the authority, if as an elected official in our country, you give, when you vote and you put into office a county sheriff or a county commissioner or a mayor, city councilman, you give with that election, you give them authority. You give them virtue of their office, their elected office. They have authority to deal in your behalf. And so part of that is the public safety component. And a lot of times we think of the public safety component being the sheriff's role. And that is his major role. But it falls to all elected officials. That is one of the key things that we, as elected officials, say you're going to take care of is the citizens. And so that public safety role, the concern for them in an incident, that is your, so right there, in incident operations, you have the authority to make sure that things are being done in their behalf. Okay, multi-agency coordination groups is in a large event where more than one jurisdiction is involved in an incident. And a lot of times this incident command system is used in small systems, but in large systems, it involves a lot of different agencies. So to give you a quick example, if you had a wildland fire in your county, how many agencies, if that's bordering your city's involved, your county, depends on who the landowners. You could have private landowners, you could have land that is managed by Forest Service, you could have land that is managed by BLM. If it burns into the next county, bordering county, depending on in San Juan County, that'd be a pretty big fire if it was by one of your cities and then it burned clear into the next county. In other counties, that's not quite so tough. We had a fire in Juan County that threatened from all the way from Nephi and burned over into Sanpete County and threatened some of the smaller towns in Sanpete. So multi-jurisdictional, but it'd be very easy to have a fire that burned on a county border, and fires don't respect state lines or county fires. So then when you find yourself in a multi-jurisdictional agency, that is what a MAC is. And this system helps coordinate so that you can go across county borders, state lines, those kind of things to deal with an incident. These are things that, whether it's life safety is where we start with our most important acts, but these are things that a MAC group will help us with, is a policy level body, making sure that those policies are and jurisdictions, those concerns are watched and watched for and make sure that that works. They're going to help those acronyms at the bottom, that IC and UC stands for Incident Command or Unified Command. We'll talk a little bit of difference of what those are. But it helps the decision-making component of that between the elected and appointed officials and that incident command who is in charge of that incident. We're going to talk about EOCs, Emergency Operations Centers. The state of Utah has one of those, and it is located in Salt Lake underneath the Capitol building. And that is the component when your county, you have an incident, your county's busy, involved in that incident, and you needed those resources that we talked about earlier, that is where that request is going to go to, is an EOC. An EOC is there to support, not run the incident. They're there to help make sure that your requests are being met. It's a support, not a leadership function. Joint information system is that public information component. In our world today, it's very complex. Rather than just, if you think of an information system being that person in front of a camera giving a news release, it's a lot more than that. In our world today, it's not just one person in front of a camera, it takes a whole team of people, everything from answering phones. A dispatch or an agency would be overwhelmed with phone calls coming in, both seeking information and delivering information. And so a GIST, or a joint information system, is there to help everything from answering phone calls to social media. A lot of information that's helpful to the team can come in through social media, but also a lot of false news, if you will, or false concepts or rumors will go around on social media, to where these are the folks that are monitoring that and helping the incident command team with knowing what's being said and what's going on, so that they can put out their message, which is accurate and facts, so that the public will know what to do and what they need to expect and where help is and how they can reach that help. Okay, the incident command system. When an incident happens, the governing body, typically on a small incident, if you have a single car accident, then you have a patrol officer or a deputy arrive at that scene. He is the incident commander of that scene. And how do they get that authority? How do they have the authority to have control of that scene? That may be not a question that you spend a lot of time pondering, but I'm asking you now. How do they get that authority to be that police officer on that scene? Where does that chain of authority, line of authority come from?
Either from the sheriff or the state
Okay.
judicial system.
So it comes directly from the elected official. So from the county commission and the sheriff, if it's a deputy, it comes from the sheriff. A deputy is a mirrored image of the sheriff. That's what a deputy is. A deputy, whether it's in the clerk's office or the sheriff's office or any other elected official office, that deputy has the same authority as that elected official. And so, as a sheriff, it's a big job. You run a jail, you do bailiff duty, you serve papers, you do public safety. There's a million and one tasks to do. You can't do it all in one person, so you're allowed to have deputies. And you can have a lot of deputies. You can have as many deputies as the county commission will authorize you to afford to pay the bill. And so that is one of the reasons why your county sheriffs are often there asking for additional funding to have more deputies so they can do their tasks. And that's where you become a team as a county, Team San Juan County, if you will, to work those issues out and say, hey, what can we afford to help? You know, these are my challenges, this is my needs. And so from that deputy, they have a direct line of authority to be the incident commander on that single car accident. If it's a city police officer, he's getting his from the chief of police, who gets his direct line of authority from the mayor and the city council. That's who gives him his authority and his power.